G'day, you're listening to the Virtual Staff Room, and this is episode 43, The Global Village. Hi there, thanks for joining us. My name is Chris Betcher. At my school, we're about to embark on a project with our Year 5 students where they do a thematic unit on Indonesia. And they do this every year, and they learn all about Indonesian culture and food and transport and everything else. And this year we're taking a slightly different approach to it. And one of the things that I think is really important that I've got the teachers doing this year is connecting to an Indonesian school using Skype. So amongst other things they're doing, I'm really keen for our kids to have conversations with Indonesian kids one-on-one where they can ask questions and talk about the culture. And I think that one-on-one connection is really, really important. I managed to hook up with a fabulous Indonesian teacher, Endom Pelupe, who teaches in a little village whose name escapes me right now. But she does these wonderful things with Skype with her kids, and she has done for a few years now. And she's agreed to do a project with our kids. Anyway, in the process of planning something with her the other day, she introduced me over Skype to this guy called John Warnken. And John lives in Florida. And she said, "Oh, John's online, meet John." So we said hello, and John then contacted me on Skype last night and said that he was just had a write-up about himself in the paper, the local paper. They were doing a story on some of the stuff he's doing with kids, and we got talking about that, and I thought it was such a fantastic story. I said, "Can you have a chat with me right now? Let's record it and let's podcast it." I'll let John tell the story for himself, but it is kind of fascinating when age and experience starts to put some of that into helping kids understand the world better. So here we go. So I'm talking today to John Warnken from Florida. G'day, John.
G'day, Chris. How are you?
I'm very well. And John, we're just going to have a quick chat about your use of Skype because I think it's quite fascinating what you're doing as, I guess, can I use the term senior citizen? Is that okay?
Yep. I've officially become a senior citizen.
and the great work that you're doing with talking to kids all around the world with Skype. And so we'll hear about some of that.
I started using Skype when Skype first came on the market, really.
Uh-huh. It's come a long way, hasn't it?
It has come a long way. It's now all over Oprah Winfrey and CNN and all the news broadcasts are using it. But a lot of teachers like yourself were early adapters, making use of the technology.
Yep, definitely.
And I think Australia was really out in the forefront because your country's so spread out. You all are pretty wired technologically. And because I've talked to a lot of Aussies over the years, so.
Yeah, we're so far away from everything. We tend to leverage a lot of these distance technologies pretty well.
Yeah.
I remember, over 10 years ago now, we were using a thing called See You, See Me, which is a very, very early form of the video conferencing over IP. We're working with kids in Chicago and Tokyo, which was pretty cool back in the day.
Yeah, I remember that.
So what's the deal? So you're retired? Did I read?
No, I'm not retired. I have a small computer business, and I teach locally basic computer lessons for seniors at the.
Okay.
We have a senior center. Well, we have 5 senior centers in the county where I live. And I started volunteering teaching over there about 5 years ago. And what happened in one of my computer classes one day is I was teaching them to use Skype. And I had a guy from China that came on Skype and wanted to know, could he talk to some Americans?
Right.
So I introduced my class to this Chinese college student. And 2 things happened. Number one, the Chinese student was just overwhelmed by the fact that he got to talk to not one American, but 6 Americans with different accents, male, female, and he was just overwhelmed. He'd never had an experience like that.
Yep.
And he was so nice and he was so polite to my group of seniors. Then they got so excited about learning because they were talking to somebody 10,000 miles away that was interested in hearing them speak, and all they had to do was talk. And that sort of got me on the idea of tutoring English, and I actually started out in China, and I went everywhere, well, not everywhere in China that you can go, but so many places in China I lost count. And I joined this language learning website, italki, which is actually based in Shanghai, and it's run by a Chinese American named Kevin Chin, who's from Houston, Texas, but he lives in Shanghai, and he started italki. And anyway, after I joined italki, you put up your profile. Well, Indan Palupe from Pekalongan, Indonesia, contacted me and wanted me to help her teach her students in a public school. This was about 4 years ago. And Indan and I have worked together very, very closely. We've done everything from teach her students in her high school class live in the classroom. She's introduced me to the mayor of Pekalongan, to the school superintendent of Pekalongan. I gave the commencement address in her high school graduation one year using Skype. I was on a live radio call-in show for 8 weeks doing an hour and a half worth of call-ins where hundreds of people were trying to call a radio station and talk to me. I've been written up in the paper over there several times. And we actually got the founder of italki, Kevin Chin, to do a radio broadcast with us live on the radio, and he blogged about it on his italki website. And then we also had Ann Murcha from Australia do a live show. And Ann wrote about it in her blog. And then I got profiled on the Oprah Angel Network here in the United States, and they wrote about. Guy. I'm telling you, and Indan has been sort of the motivating force behind making a lot of this happen, because most of the time when I was trying to do this, I was teaching other teachers. I was teaching ESL teachers in various countries. But I wasn't getting down to the student level, into the public school system. Right. Part of this had to do with the fact that the students themselves were too shy, too reluctant to speak. Particularly in China, they have a lot of cultural issues about making mistakes, so they're very reluctant to say anything. Yeah. In Indonesia, there are no rules over there, and Indan just took her laptop into the classroom and opened it up, and next thing I knew, I had students lined up waiting to talk to me, and I had the blessing of the school board, the superintendent of schools, the principals. I mean, they were begging me to, literally, they wanted me to move over there. And
that's a great story.
I'm a quote non-teacher, and I'm not in the educational setting that you're in, but I have a lot of teaching background. And in order to do all of these things, we had to employ a lot of technology, because we were communicating 10,000 miles away, and we were using email, FTP file transfers. We were using the screen sharing capabilities that Skype came out with later. We were using a variety of ways to transfer files back and forth. We started recording the audio sessions using a call recorder software program that I actually helped a Ukrainian firm develop for this purpose.
I think that's what I'm recording you with right now.
I got, deeply involved in the technology portion. And for example, when you're language tutoring, you will get questions many times about the colloquialisms and various things that that people don't understand. And I was talking to a Chinese PhD. Actually, she's a doctor at a university in China, and she was reading an article in the Reader's Digest, and the article was about a pickup truck that was hauling a RV. And the first question she asked me is, what's
an
a
RV?
Pickup?
Oh, okay.
No, what's a pickup? What's a pickup?
Okay.
And, I had no words to explain that, so what I had to do was go find a picture of a pickup truck, and I sent it to her via file transfer.
Yep.
And then the next question was, what's an RV? And that was like, oh my God, there's so many different types of RVs. And you have to, these are not dictionary definitions. You have to use visual aids. And so while I was talking to her, I went to Google, I did my search, I downloaded the file, and then I captured it, and then I sent it to her via Skype's file transfer, and we were able to continue the conversation without missing a beat. But you learn to be very fast and very good. Then the other thing that you get into is language translation. But anyway, this whole business is very addictive to me, and I've had a great deal of enjoyment, at working with the kids, working with the various teachers around the world.
Yeah, I can imagine it must be really rewarding. And you say you're now getting other people involved in this. How many people have you got on board to try and be part of it?
Well, so far, I'm just in the process of trying to recruit some more people. They ran an article in the paper today. They've got my phone number in there, and I'm contacting some other local resources, schools, colleges, Christian radio broadcasts, things like that. But it's been very difficult to get people in the United States involved. I've had numerous, other country contacts that we've managed to coordinate over the time, but getting an interest here in the United States has been difficult.
That's interesting. Why do you think that is? I'm curious about
I really don't have an answer for the question. I have contacted numerous public schools and made my plea, and they all just kind of say it's not within the scope of what we're going to do, and we can't fit it into the program, or we've got our own this, or we're afraid we've got to get board approval or parental approval. I don't know. The United States has got so many bureaucratic restrictions within the public school system.
I know many who would agree with you, yes.
And with me, since I am completely and totally outside of the system, then I don't have any restrictions. I can do what I want, and therefore I have done what I wanted, and it hasn't been in a bad way. I've simply contacted these schools and students. And, there's a huge underground of educators out there that are doing this. I mean, people don't realize how many educators are out there, plugging away, But it's been interesting. I'm hoping to kind of break that barrier, because you really, if I tell you about it, you don't quite understand it until you've actually done it. Now, if I can get you to sit down and get involved and show you, then you kind of get, the feel for this. So, but, it's like any teacher, you have to have you have to have that teaching spirit. You don't teach because you're making a lot of money. You teach because you love it, or because you enjoy, helping.
Skype just recently, I think last week or the week before, launched their education service. I think it's just education.skype.com, where they're building a database of schools or individuals around the world who want to connect and use Skype for this education kind of purpose. So that might be something you can take a look at.
That's a good resource, and I wasn't I haven't been paying that close of attention. A couple of years back, I was actually talking to the Skype PR people about some of these things, and they took some of my input, and I still have contact with them if I so desire. But Skype has gotten so big so fast, and there's so many things going on that this is really small potatoes. But there's so many things you can do with Skype.
Mate. Every potato helps.
Yeah, that's true. But there's so many things that you can do. Now, the most interesting of everything that we did using Skype was doing the group Skype calls.
Yep.
And you can do 6, 8, 10, 12 people in a group call. And what I would do is I would conference in people from around the world. Mm-hmm. And we would have 6 or 8 at a time. If you do more than that, it gets too confusing.
Yeah.
But we would do people from, 6 or 8 different parts of the world, different time zones, different cultures. And when we would all talk and listen and, interact, it was just an amazing experience for everybody involved. And we recorded these conversations, and I still have people, talk about this. In fact, Ann Murcha was a party to this, and she blogged about it. And it's just an amazing experience. Because you can use the technology to conference in people, and as well you can call people on their landlines or cell phones and conference them in. I used to conference my mother in, who's never had a computer and is never going to have one, but I'd call her on the phone, and then I would conference her in to my group around the world. She was just flabbergasted. She just loved it.
I've Skyped my mother into classrooms a few times now too.
And the people say, "Well, I can't do that." Well, yes, you can. Can you answer the phone and can you talk?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly right.
And so, it's a great experience, and you just have to do it. I think there's too much overemphasis in Skype on using the video capabilities because
I agree. I absolutely agree with you there.
Because video is great, but video was going to screw up your call because of the bandwidth issues. And because of the fact that a lot of these developing countries are using much lower bandwidth, Skype's capabilities work very well. The call quality is excellent, but when you throw in the video capability, now you're subject to losing the whole call in the middle of the session.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think voice on its own can be extremely powerful. I don't think you need the video for most of this stuff.
No, because you're supposed to be concentrating on language and listening, and video is a distraction. And so I think there's way too much emphasis on the video part. But, you can do video one-on-one if you want to, and now Skype has group video conferencing, but I can only imagine how much bandwidth that group video conferencing is going to take. And but anyway, it's a wonderful experience. It's just something that you have to be sort of taken by the hand and shown, and then once you get the idea, Yep. And I'm very impressed with Australia's capabilities and the things that you all are doing. It's wonderful.
Yeah, we try.
You're doing a great job. You really are.
Thanks, mate. Well, it's great to talk to you. I really appreciate the time you've given me. And I think I read in the news article you flipped me on that story. You are 58, I think you said.
Yeah. Yes. I'm 58.
Well, good on you.
So I'm not a youngster, and I didn't just start this. I started over 20 years ago.
Sure.
So I know a little bit about what's going on.
It really throws out that argument about the whole the debate about the digital natives versus the digital immigrants, and when you base that on age, it's such a nonsense. Really, age has nothing to do with it at all.
Well, it has to do with your interest, but. When you're dealing with older people that have not been introduced to the technology, you have to find something that's very interesting for them to do, for them to overcome the difficulties in learning.
Yeah.
And they learn differently than children do. Children are like little sponges. They suck up all your knowledge and learn it in one setting a lot of times. Older people, it takes a lot more repetition, a lot more practice. And so they get frustrated if they're not learning it the first or second go round. And so you gotta give them a reason to come back and try. So it's a different teaching experience. You're teaching younger people. I'm teaching older people.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not dumb. They just learn differently. So,
well, that's an interesting observation. All right, mate. I appreciate your time. Thanks for talking.
All right. Well, thanks, Chris. And I will post, when you get this up, I'll post this on my website. And I've enjoyed this very much.
I think that's a great story, and what I love most about it is that John's really identified that there are all these kids around the world who don't speak English who would desperately love to practice their English with somebody, and there's these older members of our community who have time on their hands and who would love to speak to someone, and the idea of connecting the two up is just a wonderfully brilliant idea. So good luck with that, John. Hope it all goes well. Thanks for listening. My name is Chris Betcher. You have been listening to the Virtual Staff Room.